Welcome back to Black Belt Secrets. I know it's been a while. I wanted to do a video about my shoulder because I noticed that when I mentioned my shoulder problems, lots of people have said they've had shoulder problems, and I've figured out where mine has come from. So in this video, I'm going to explain very briefly what happened and how you can avoid it as well. So it all comes down to the choice of chairs, and I'm not talking about my beautiful sofa that I got from Sofology at the back there. I'm talking about these two chairs here. Now, on face value, you might say that this one is by far the better choice out of the two. It looks a little bit more jazzy, it's a gamer's chair, and quite frankly, it just looks pretty good. But can you spot the glaring problem with either one of these chairs? Because I switched from this chair to this one, and it was shortly after that that I experienced the problem. Now, if I come down on a level, you'll probably see what I'm talking about. This one is a good inch or two above this one by the time you're actually sitting on it, and I'll tell you why that's a problem. And to do that, I'm going to show you from this kind of angle, because this is my old chair now, the grey one, and you'll see that I'm kind of above the desk height, which has its own problem, which is why I wanted to change the chair. You'll see that I naturally reach out for the mouse and I lean on the table, and all of my weight is going into this point here in my wrist. Now, this caused me serious problems in this wrist, in that it was really aching and I couldn't figure out why. I eventually figured out that it was because I'm leaning onto this wrist where my mouse is, and all of my weight is going onto there. Not so much on this arm, because it's only occasionally using the keyboard or where I'm using both hands on the keyboard, but this wrist with the mouse, all of my weight ended up going into it. That's why I wanted to change the chair. However, introducing this chair I thought would solve the problem, because I'm a bit lower down. So now I thought that because I'm not above the desk leaning down, I'm kind of below it, which solved the problem with my wrist, because my wrist is now more supported by my forearm here on the edge of the table, and I'm grabbing hold of the mouse. So this isn't such a problem anymore. However, that came with its own problem. As you remember, I was talking about my shoulder pains on the upper side here, the supraspinatus going through the middle, and I could not figure out why. And for some reason, it didn't occur to me that it might be the chair once again, because now I've transferred the problem from leaning on the wrist from an elevated angle to now I am below the table, and this arm is now constantly reliant on the upper muscles in the arm here. So whilst the weight is indeed now on the forearm, my upper arm is now constantly tense because I'm constantly leaning on the forearm to control the mouse and even the keyboard. And because I'm right-handed, most of my weight is going on the right forearm, not so much on the left. So in effect, all I've done is transfer the problem from one place to another, from my wrist leaning on the mouse to my upper arm, because I'm now leaning on the edge of the table. So the moral of this story is be aware of your surroundings and the ergonomics of how you're sitting or standing for how long and everything else, because doing much more work at home has meant that I spend quite a number of hours sitting at this desk. And obviously being in one position for an extended period of time is going to take its toll on that part of the body. If you're leaning on it for 2, 3, 4 hours or more a day, and you do that every day and you don't notice it, it will build up. So all I did is transfer the problem from my wrist, leaning on it to use the mouse, to the upper shoulder. So this is a great chair. It's really comfortable. I will link it as an affiliate link in the description below, because I do love this chair. So I don't want to get rid of it, not least of which because I like how it looks, but it is really comfortable as well. It does have a back support here. It's got a neck support at the top, and I can lean back in it, and I do quite like this chair. However, my trusty grey one over here does have its uses as well, but when I swapped them out today to use the grey one to see whether that improved my shoulder aches, I remembered why I switched it, and it was because of my wrist leaning on the mouse. So there it is. If you've got aches and pains in your shoulders, because I know lots of you have asked me about that, then take a look and be very conscious about how you're sitting, what you're leaning on, and for how long. What I'd probably suggest is just sit in your working position, but don't pay attention to your work for a few moments, so that you can actually look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, where you're leaning, and where the pains are coming from, and things like that. Because I've noticed that this was just a very nervy pain, because all of this upper part of my shoulder has just tensed up over time and is trapping all the nerves. So there it is. I hope that helps somebody. Make sure you check out how you're sitting. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.